All right, so today we're going to jump into Axie Infinity and where they're going in 2022. I think you guys are going to like this one. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. As you guys know, we cover Axie a lot on this channel, but there's a big reason why. And part of this is the massive growth that we are going to see in the NFT and the play-to-earn space over this next year. And of course, a lot of people are already kind of pointing to this direction. I think you're going to see a lot of not only adoption, you're also going to see a lot of movement in the investment side as well as some other areas, especially as Axie starts to roll out their strategy. And we're going to get into a lot of the details and into the weeds a little bit. I want to jump to the first thing, which is their land sale trailer video. Let's take a look quickly of what's going on there. All right, so obviously, you know, if you've been watching land over any of the projects, including things like what we've seen happen in Sandbox, etc. The point is that land sales are going to be a big factor. And I think Axie is just going to be on the beginning stages of where this might be going. So I love the graphics on this one for sure. Very nice. So nice little intro into what will be, I think, a very cool explanation of where Axie is going to go. I want to jump into just some of the elements here of what Axie is talking about. All right, so obviously they're moving into quite a bit of a shift, I think, when you look at 2D going to 3D and the evolution of that. I think we will see a lot of that happening in the metaverse, especially in some of the games, and of course Axie leading the way right here. When you jump to this tweet, it talks quickly about kind of how they're building this. So they've got two formidable teams internally working on the land project. They call it K, and Axie Infinity Origin. And the Origin is the third iteration of the battle system. So this is one of the key elements that they're really going after. Faster, more skill-based, more beautiful, which I kind of think was the point with that video, is they really kind of amped up the whole element of that 3D art generation. So free demo, Axies to learn mechanics before you get your own Axie NFT pets. Again, back to the whole point of doing things that are really going to help adoption. I think that's a factor that we'll continue to see with Axie, especially around kind of the evolution of what this game needs to be and why it's so important in the crypto NFT sphere. This type of movement, and there's some charts that I'm going to show you throughout the video that kind of show not only the growth, the acceleration of the project, but also the potential of where Axie could be and really how it could be rolling out to kind of a next generation audience, including Gen Z, and also, of course, the millennials. Remember, if you guys have not had a chance to check out our Axie staking video, we go into just exhaustive detail of how you can stake Axie, the process to take, and then we actually have a download as well as a model, a pricing model for profiting over on the Diamond Circle. And just click on the Diamond Circle link below. You'll be able to get to that. It's free. The chart is free, the model is free. If you are asking for a link, because it is an Excel spreadsheet, we made it, if you just click that link and make a copy, you don't need to ask for access or anything. Just make a copy, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you see that, because it goes through a full model of how staking can be done. Further into Axie, let's talk a little bit about kind of their plan for 2022. In this tweet, they basically kind of outlined it. There's a lot happening, obviously a year of gameplay releases. New releases will be adding increased utility. That's a big factor I think we're going to need, especially around unlocking a lot more experiences. And that's one of the key things. And they even reference here, it will unlock new economic levers that will allow us to more efficiently fine-tune and balance the economy, which I think is an interesting statement here, because that tells me that there's bigger plans with how they plan to go at the utility side of really utilizing NFTs within the in-game experience. And I think that's a big key. When we look at games today and strategies around what these games are doing, what I find so often to be the case is that not many of these games have true utility outlined, and or do they have a roadmap? Now I want you to think about that for a second. Roadmaps on the games themselves, roadmaps on the partnerships, but often when you get into roadmaps for the utility side of it, those things are almost non-existent. So with Axie really going in that direction, I think it's a good move. Another tweet here by Sky Mavis. It's been an incredible year. Obviously, lots happened in last year, but this year is infrastructure to go from thousands to millions of players. That would be absolutely mind-boggling if they can move into that kind of acceleration of growth in terms of audience. And there is a little bit of a challenge, I think, with Axie. Remember, they were really the first play-to-earn game out there. The 3D element of that evolution of graphics, I think, will help, especially when you have and are going up against what could be some of the best games in the industry, especially on play-to-earn. But remember, there's still a lot to be done yet in terms of how this strategy is going to go. But the big key here is they're going to focus in 2022 on, guess what, gameplay. And I think that right there is a key factor on any kind of game growth that we'll see this year. Any of the games that can truly deliver on gameplay are going to be the ones that win. Now, why is this important in your investing strategy? If you're investing in gaming, if you're investing in crypto gaming, play-to-earn, if you're looking at the ecosystems, the NFT investment, land sales, etc., the idea of staking with Smooth Love Potion, that transfer over to Axie, all that kind of component, all of this matters to how your strategy is going to go about in 2022, especially in getting into these both the early emerging games that we talk about a lot on this channel, but also understanding these games that have this accelerant, almost like lightning in a bottle, that Axie is setting on right now. So lots happening with where it's going. And when you look at their overall, I want to just pull up their ecosystem, and we'll zoom in a little bit right here just to kind of look at just the layer of the ERC20s. Obviously, we know with ETH, Axie, and eventually, obviously with SLP. Then you've got the ERC 721 tokens, the marketplace that's really blowing up, obviously the Ronin connection on the wallet. We will continue to see, I think, some more expansion. The Lunasians, then you've got the guilds that are involved. Look at the number of guilds that are out here in this. I mean, this is insane with this. And remember, this is still early in terms of the overall ecosystem of what they're up to. Even though this is showing a team, this is a little old, so it doesn't really show the full-blown team. But you can kind of see at least the core element that has been growing over some time. And I also want to take a look at the platforms right there. This, I think, will continue to go once we start to see Axie move into, and I dare say it, into the Apple ecosystem. I think that will be a big part of it. Now, when I say Apple, not meaning mobile, I mean actual desktop. So when we see that come into play, I think that'll be a big factor there. All right, and then obviously you see a massive amount of fan-made sites, developers. Maybe we should be in on that one, I feel like. That's with TechPath. But the point being is that this ecosystem has grown dramatically since really last summer. And the growth of Axie themselves also has grown dramatically since last summer. Now, granted, a lot of this really accelerated in the last quarter on Metaverse Day, which was really October 27th, when Meta, meaning Facebook, came out and said, listen, we're doubling down. For them to be able to make that kind of gauntlet play, it really pretty much put the entire industry, gaming, social media, technology, graphics, and most companies that are looking about branding on notice. All of that happened in October, and really I think we are in for a very interesting year for Axie Infinity. Just to get into the point here, 2022 gameplay releases, these will be the new releases, added increased utility. We talked a little bit about that. But you can also start to look at some of the other aspects of what they're looking at trying to do. Crafting upgrades, resource sinks, all very important to us. Take economic lever seriously. That talks a little bit about that point I was talking about earlier. And then just the whole aspect of them really getting much more, I think, much more aggressive on how they're going to grow this game. And I think that will be a big factor. I want to jump over here to some of their data points that they shared right here. I think this is where it was. Yeah. So hyper growth, yes. 2021, this is where it's going. Axie holders ballooned to 10,400 from 27,000. This is percent from 27,000 last January to over 2.9 million today. Axie generated 1.3 billion in U.S. value. And this, of course, is community treasure over the last year. You can kind of see this big growth right here. Also now the #1 project of all time by total volume and number of unique, even though that is a little bit of a misstatement in the sense of, yeah, of course it's of all time, since this is really year one when it comes to NFTs. So I don't feel like that's a huge statement. This one right here, Ronin allowed us to dramatically lower friction around onboarding. I would argue that a little bit. There are a lot of hoops that you do have to jump through to get into the Ronin wallet and be able to do things like as simple as staking for most projects. And remember, it's still not an easy thing and process to go out and actually buy Axies. The onboarding process is still for the geek friendly. So for that to really kind of move to next layer, meaning think of it like Xbox games or the ease of access that you have on AAA gaming, that is really what is going to happen in blockchain gaming, and especially in play to earn, I think, for it to grow. But also they state here, engineering team deployed 20 smart contracts on Ronin this year. That's a pretty impressive thing when you can roll that many out. Katana native exchange exploded onto the scene. That was just in November. It's already one of the top decentralized exchanges with 25,000 daily active users. That's pretty impressive too, just with that short of growth. But again, it goes back to the point of critical mass within the ecosystem that we have today. What I mean by critical mass, meaning really Axie was the first play to earn game really on the scene, and we've seen a fairly aggressive movement. I think a lot of games were a little bit more dormant because they were in the development phase and they realized just how much they needed to in terms of marketing to get out there. So I think there's a lot yet to really kind of to discover within the Axie ecosystem. Last thing I want to get into is some of the land aspects. There's still some land available, but if you look at the plots here, obviously all this over here on the right that I'm kind of mousing over, none of that available. This is obviously kind of the cheap seats. You get a little bit more expensive, and then obviously once you get into the center point, this is where you got whale territory. And even though with whale territory, look at the amount of acquisitions that are being gobbled up here. A lot of this will be brands, big companies, and also guilds, all that playing into this, I think, as we start to see these kind of roll out. I want to jump into where Axie is going overall, and this was kind of interesting right here. This compared Axie, Sandbox, and Gala Games. This is based on social, mostly Twitter, all of Twitter actually. But the point I wanted to make here with Twitter is remember that crypto and a lot of blockchain evolvement is happening within the crypto space. It has become somewhat, I would say, the de facto social media platform for all of these projects, games. It delivers a great experience in terms of video. It obviously can really generate a lot of fan and acquisition, but it's really, best case, almost as good as Discord and even Telegram when it comes to informing what's happening on the project. So that's why I think you have a lot of people really kind of going at it. But if you look back here, just back in, let's go back here right about the time where Sandbox and Axie were about the same size. This is back in July. Sandbox was standing at 138,000 followers. Axie, if you back it up right there on, July 4th. 134,137 on Sandbox. Go Gala Games, 30,000. Had not made it. Right here in October 27th, things changed quite a bit for all of these. Now, as you can see, this is pre-Sandbox's rise right here, and then also a bump for Gala Games. Axie, on the other hand, was slow and steady growth. If you look at this kind of rolling out, you can kind of see, again, the conversation daily followers for these really growing heavily for Axie back here in July. Sandbox out here in the late fall, mainly again because of what was happening with Meta and the announcement to the world that Metaverse is going to become a thing. Also, the other thing that is interesting is the growth here. If you look at where Axie Infinity, and this of course is from zero today, early January, Axie still kind of leading the way right now, 840,000. But it's not long before Sandbox will probably eclipse Axie in terms of overall ecosystem. Granted, all of these forecasts on Social Blade can really start to shift as we see accelerated elements start to happen within the games themselves. This has Gala Games actually intersecting around early 2023 in terms of overall size of audience, Axie being 2.4 million. I think this is where Social Blade sometimes misses it because it doesn't take into consideration some of the things that are in these roadmaps. It's looking at current growth. Remember, Axie had a little bit of a disadvantage because they were play to earn well before the metaverse angle came about that helped reposition Sandbox and Gala into a hyper growth state. Now, granted, you're going to see Sandbox and Gala become, really I think will become the two titans of what we'll see in play to earn. Obviously, Axie in its own right could become something very special as well. Listen, play to earn, and also I think AAA is going to start to make its way into this category, and it's going to be a big factor in all of these projects going forward. Additionally, let's take a look here at just some of the Ronin data. This is ETH versus Ronin. You can kind of see the marketplace right here. Market cap on SLP, Axies, and wrapped ETH, 1.79 mil. Ronin marketplace SLP, Axie and wrapped ETH in US dollars, obviously at 6.7 billion. And then you can kind of see the growth. Look at this growth accelerant that we see back here in the fall on just the market cap for Axie, that explosion on price. Same thing here with SLP. This, of course, is a lot of in-game and gameplay activity that started to accelerate. And then we continue to see kind of the daily volume also blowing. Here's the cumulative volume by NFTs. Again, big movement, a lot of kind of that slower development as we started to see that occur. Now I think we're ready for a lot more activity happening. Same thing with active addresses. Right there was the high point, what was November 15th, again, right after Meta Day, which really kind of exploded the area. And then right here you see Axion volumes as obviously the obvious NFT, but look at Land. That has absolute vertical opportunity here of really exploding. Same thing here on SLP, minting and burning, continuing to see growth here, and Axie events. This is going to, I think we're going to see a lot more of activity around projects when it comes to Axie in 2022. And then obviously the number of Axie holders still on this real nice steady growth, even though there is a little bit of a flat right here. Again, I think that was because a lot of people waiting for and to see what was going to happen in 2022. When you think about what Axie is doing, the Ronin wallet, just to give you an example, because some people sometimes will say, well, it's kind of a one-off. And it's not really, because if you look at what is happening over here on Solana and their Phantom wallet, this was within a completely different ecosystem. Again, Phantom wallet here is growing at over 1.8 million monthly active users in 9 months. That to me gives you two big indicators of how these wallets are going to become mainstream and why they're going to become such a fabric of our lives. And when you look at all these different components, whether it's you're using Phantom and you're going into the Solana ecosystem on games that are going to eventually blow up on that platform, or if you're looking at Ronin and seeing what Axie is planning to do, along with most likely a lot of other projects that will most likely come alive. And I think we'll continue to see Ronin continue to be one of the key wallets and growth out there in the market space. I want to jump over to this tweet right here. Essentially was the Ethereum Bridges total value locked ranking. Despite the positive but low 7-day chain, just kind of look at this right here. Let me zoom out on that just a little bit so you can see. Ronin right there at 6.7 billion, surpassing Polygon, obviously Avalanche right there in the race. We're continuing to see pretty massive movement here, and Ronin now within the overall, in comparison to what's happening with ETH, you look at what's happening with Avalanche and Polygon, this is a big, big deal. I also want to take a look at the chart today to see where we are overall, because I feel like right now Axie is underpriced. It's at a point right now where we could see a movement. Could it happen early? I think we're going to need some gameplay starting to develop, which is what they've really talked about, and where that might to explode, and then obviously a little bit more activity on land sales and what really kind of the community. Because remember, when we look at sentiment data and amplification data, a lot of this is driven off of community and that whole network effect, Metcalfe's law. That's really what gets going. And when that does start up, that's when we see movement in price action. Just to give you an example, we'll jump to TradingView real quick so you can kind of see a little bit of movement back here. This was back in October, right around Meta Day, and we had a nice 71.26 on sentiment. Amplification score was right at 70.12, almost had jumped right up to where sentiment was trending. But you saw this move right here, nice movement here on where Axie was going. We called that one right here was that top. A little bit of a slide off, and then right now, the last movement we had, 71.58, 72.31. What impresses me here is the fact that we're seeing continuous growth in both amplification and in sentiment for Axie, even though we're seeing a little bit of a downturn in the price. And that's why I think right now Axie is undervalued in here at the $90 to $95 mark. So it's definitely a position. And if you are looking at things like staking, if you're looking at angles in which you're looking at long-term holds, and if you are considering Axie as a position as one of the bigger plays that you might put in your portfolio, this might be a good time to take a look at it. Remember, we do these market movers. The concept is real simple. We'll put together data like what you've just seen, put together some of the insights, and also give you access to our own indices, which are our sentiment markers and our amplification markers. Not investment advice. The key here is it's hopefully some research you can take out on your own sentiment, or excuse me, on your own journey when it comes to crypto investing, and also understanding play to earn and kind of how that all comes together. If you guys are listening in over at the podcast right now, best thing to do, of course, is to jump over here to the YouTube channel, get in here, make sure and like the video, because it's a way for us to get a feedback from you if you like these kinds of videos. Of course, you have to jump into the Diamond Circle. It's where you're going to get the Axie Infinity staking data. It's where we gave you our model, our spreadsheet model that you can use depending on what percentage or what amount you want to put into your own investment. It's free, it's easy to do, and of course, you want to reach me, it's out on Twitter, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.